Meet the man who ran one of the most violent cartels in modern history, Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, aka El Mencho. And you see, El Mencho was no ordinary cartel boss. Let me put it to you like this. His group, the CJNG, was worth $50 billion. You know how much crime you gotta do to make $50 billion?
$50 billion. I think that might have been more than Pablo, but I don't know. I mean, I gotta research that again, but who would have thought? This guy definitely had more money than what's his name? El Chapo from Mexico. And I watched another documentary that talked about how seizing the Sinaloa cartel and of course the cartel that Pablo Escobar was also a part of made the drug situation worse because it made the drug trade move up to Mexico. You know, majority of it moved up to Mexico, which then made it, easier to facilitate the United States and the rest of the world. $50 billion.
They got together, they said, now El Mencho doing too much. United States said, so Mexico, let us know what he be doing down there. Mexico said, well, for starters, he be selling that stuff. The United States said, well, of course. Where he be coming though? Texas, California. Mexico said, no, he be selling all over the world. He be in Africa, he be in China, he worldwide with it. United States said, $50 billion. Yeah, that makes sense. Mexico said, yeah, and don't get mad, but he also be stealing oil. The United States said, what y'all need? The CIA, the FBI? We got to put aside our differences.
You know the U.S. don't play about no oil. And a lot would say that the U.S. also facilitates the sale of illegal paraphernalia, drugs, and weapons and arms. Because we ask, how do all these weapons and drugs get inside the United States? One could say that. I wouldn't even say the three-letter word agencies are a part of it. I don't know, But oil, they don't play about no oil.
United States and Mexico locked in. But CIA, this CIA, that, El Mencho was not going to be easy to capture because you're not listening. I said $50 billion. This man basically had his own private military. They even got their names on their uniform. They weren't hiding about it. I got to blur out half this picture. That man had an RPG. Oh, and they weren't afraid to use their too. In fact, that's what makes it so tough to take out cartel bosses because of retaliation. It's basically the threat of you mess with us, we burning it all down. But that does not mean Mexico has not been trying. They've been trying for many, many years to capture El Mencho. But every time Mexico ups it, El Mencho.
That's funny because I've never heard of this El Mencho guy up until this situation where Mexican government killed him. Have y'all ever heard of him? I mean, we all know about El Chapo, of course, in Mexico, and of course we know about Pablo Escobar in Medellin, Colombia, Sinaloa cartel, which was also in Colombia. But El Mencho, But it's funny because they all move the same, right? They all, to some degree, own the politicians, the police. They all have their own personal army, and they all have massive influence between the political sphere in their countries. Which makes sense, which is crazy, which is why it's so hard to catch them, right? And then the threat of just blowing random neighborhoods up if you catch them. So the government is in between a rock and a hard place. But I think it's interesting how they caught him. The same way that every great man in history falls.
Doubles it. They sent the police after El Mencho. They caught one of his people. And Mencho said, okay, then we're going to catch the police. So El Mencho's group, the CJNG, were blocking roads and police officers. The Mexican government said, okay, so we're going to send the army. El Mencho said, bet, I'm going to send the army too. It's just going to be my army. El Mencho started rocket launching army helicopters out the sky. The United States said, damn, how about we try this our way? You see, if there's one thing you got to know about the United States is it prides itself in gathering intelligence. And what that looks like a lot of times is finding out a target's weakness. In El Mencho's case, it was a woman. Now, people aren't exactly sure if it's this one.
Now, this girl has pleaded all over her social media saying that she has nothing to do with it. Of course, she's going to say that because if she comes out and admits to it or alludes in any way, shape, or form that she had something to do with this, multi-billionaire, matter of fact, $50 billion worth drug lord, El Mencho. You already know her family's on that hit list. She's on that hit list. Her dog is on that hit list. And everybody around her is on that hit list. She better catch a one-way ticket right out of Mexico like yesterday, bro, like last week. She got to get up out of there. So I understand her concern, as anybody would. But isn't it crazy? As protected, as wealthy, as dangerous as this El Padron, this drug lord is, Ladrones, it's always a woman. Always a young, beautiful woman. This one, I think she does OnlyFans, if I'm not mistaken. Fellas, a woman will always be the downfall of a powerful man when he can't control himself. Always. She's the easiest path to catch the powerful man every single time.
But you get the point. So the United States CIA said, look, he got a girl. Let's follow her around. And here's where things start to get wicked. They start following her around. She go to the store. They go to the store. She go to the laundromat. They go to the laundromat. She go and visit El Mencho. They go and visit El Mencho. El Mencho's girl just kept going to this place in Mexico called Tapalpa. They said, Tapalpa? Ain't nothing in Tapalpa. Or is there? So they gather up the whole crew. They gather up the army. They gather up the police force, and they start rolling deep. It was off to Tapalpa, but the roads started getting blocked and all that. They said, we getting close. More roads blocked by burning cars. The CJNG was trying to slow down the Mexican forces. But not this time. The Mexican forces blitzed through and found El Mencho in a compound with his army, and a firefight ensued. It was like a scene out of a movie. Explosions, RPGs going off.
Again, you notice that they found him by following the routine of the girl he was dealing with. Once again, fellas, a guy worth $50 billion, his own personal army, right? Massive power politically and territorially, which he had all over, I think it was like 90 to 95% of Mexico. So you already know he was feared, revered, respected. And they still found him by following the patterns of his girlfriend. Is it really that easy? It can't be that easy. Come on. It can't be. As smart as he is, obviously, to have things all organized and put together and become this guy, we got to do some history of where he came from and how he became that. I'm always interested in how these guys like Chapo and Escobar, the Sinaloa cartel, the leaders, how do they, and they always have these humble beginnings where they're like farmers or they come from a poor family, single parent home, and then they elevate so quickly, and they're usually young by the time they become these huge drug lords. I think a lot of them, in my personal opinion, have extremely sociopathic tendencies. That's what separates them from other people. Because if you look at the way they operate, they don't necessarily value human life. They could take it like that. And most people, even your most dangerous person, doesn't really think like that. You know, the sociopathic personality type is the one that doesn't see a human being as a person. There's something in their mind that's broken, which then allows them to be extremely calculated and elevate to a certain position where other people can't sustain that level of evil or just lack of empathy or calculated coldness. I don't know. His girlfriend. Crazy.
Army versus army. Eventually, when the dust settled, the Mexican army took El Mencho into custody, but he had a lot of injuries, and as they were trying to transfer him, he got from his injuries. And well, as the Mexican government feared, the
injuries. That sounds a little too convenient. He was out of there, up out of there, kind of like the other guy, the Steen guy, Epstein, whatever. You know who I'm talking about. Did he kill himself? Didn't he? I don't know. You know. But anyways, this guy, El Mencho, injuries that made his life end. That's very convenient. Now, which makes me think of something else. Did they need him to be up out of there because he knew certain things? Could he have blackmailed people in the Mexican government, which I'm sure he had a lot of secrets because the cartel members at that level always do? He probably had politicians in his pocket. Wow, I'm just thinking about this now. I haven't seen anybody talk about this yet. I'm sure he had politicians in his pocket, high-powered businessmen in Mexico in his pocket. He also got that, what's the other billionaire? I think his name was Carlos. He used to be one of the richest men in the world. Haven't heard of him in a long time. I'm not saying that he had him under control. I'm saying that more than likely a man of his caliber would at some point cross the path of a drug lord of this magnitude in the same country. Absolutely. Especially one that runs the majority of the territories in Mexico. By his influence within the context of the drug trade. I'm telling you. I believe now that he had accidents because he had dirt on very powerful people in Mexico. Opinion.
The CJNG said, well, you mess with us, we're burning it down. So the CJNG went on a spree of burning down cars, blocking roads, just causing chaos in Mexico. 25 Mexican National Guard members were. Yeah, the retaliation is real. But Mexico, as always, continues to stand strong and is putting up a hard fight against cartels. As for El Mencho's legacy, the CJNG, his cartel group, people are worried about the power vacuum that has now arisen since El Mencho was. People have no idea who's going to take over where. El Mencho's son, who would have been a favorite to take over, is actually in custody by the United States. The Mexican government captured him a few years back and sent him to the U.S. So that leaves El Mencho's inner circle and close family. People are worried that a couple people are going to go at it because remember, $50 billion is what El Mencho's group was worth. When you're talking about $50 billion, yeah, people are going to be very desperate to try to lead that organization. I want you to take a look at this map. It shows how much influence El Mencho's group, the CJNG, had. Let me show you a quick, easy way to read this map. You see this little gray space right here? That's the only part of Mexico that the CJNG didn't have influence over. Everywhere else in this map basically means
like I said, about 95% of the, I would say, territories or states or regions in Mexico, he had influence, which means he was the number one drug lord, right? And his product was the one that was going through every single part of Mexico, or at least 95% of Mexico, which means he also had the leaders of each one of these areas under his thumb. Oh, yes, he did. Like I said, which goes back to the blackmail thing I said about him having injuries and not making it out of police custody or custody of the army, the Mexican army. Just think about it for a second.
Their territory. And remember, their influence is also worldwide. Africa, China. I saw a shirt that said CJNG for Africa. Like their organization was an organization. They made t-shirts. You see, really what I'm trying to have you understand is somebody's going to want to take over that group. And if there's a war within the CJNG to take over that group, it can get really, really violent. Remember, they have military arms. But there's something else that made the CJNG dangerous. It's the fact that El Mencho was a centralized leader. El Mencho basically held all of the power in his cartel, and that could be a very dangerous thing. Basically, it's kind of like this. A lot of people may know the name El Chapo, who is the leader of the Sinaloa cartel. In El Chapo's case, in the Sinaloa cartel, it was like a federation. There were so many powerful families under the Sinaloa cartel. When El Chapo was taken down, the Sinaloa cartel basically split into these different families. You see, under a federation, if things split, things can split. It's like if the United States for some reason decides to split into 50 states, everyone will just go their own way. But in El Mencho's case, he was basically like the king of his cartel. That means winner takes all. Whoever leads that cartel has everything.
That sounds a lot like El Pablo's or Pablo Escobar's organization. I think it was back in the was it the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. Pablo Escobar was basically the king, right? I know he had people under him that were managing different things, but yeah, the dude was basically the king. I mean, that's really what it was. You know what I'm saying?
Powerful factions, the king rules the country, the king rules the country. It don't split. But to make matters worse, let's say for some reason, even if El Mencho's group, the CJNG, disappears, that's going to leave a power vacuum in itself. So other cartel groups that are still in Mexico are going to want that number one spot as well. So much money is made with people. It always seems like there is a group that pops in every few years that takes over the entire landscape. Basically, as long as there's a massive amount of money to be made, there's always going to be somebody out there that wants to make that money. So it's just a very, very tough situation when it comes to cartels and Mexico. So people are keeping a very close eye on the CJNG and seeing how the power divides amongst them.
Yeah, basically, I think it's crazy. We all knew that there were other people after El Chapo was caught, but it's been low key. So I think it's kind of, it's interesting that we get this El Mencho guy, and even more interesting that in the way that he's caught with his girl. So again, fellas, let that be a lesson to you. Now, I'm not telling you to go be a drug lord or do illegal things. I'm telling you to move wisely, because you can apply the same thing to you building a business, right? And then everything you've built being taken down by the woman you're talking to. Now, of course, again, I'm not saying that you should be doing anything illegal, that you should be doing anything that would put you in a position to get arrested or to get hunted by the CIA or the FBI or any government. I'm simply saying be wise in the way that you operate. No matter what you're doing. No matter what you do. That's all I'm saying is be wise. But we'll see how this unfolds. I know Mexico's been crazy lately. But anyways, catch you on the next one.